actually see that the 3.7 million workers in the UK can't say one nice thing about their boss. 38% of them feel less motivated to do a great job for the company. Nearly 2/3 of employees feel unappreciated at work and they don't feel that they're thanked enough for their hard work. Less than 1/3 of younger workers feel challenged in their day-to-day work life. 1/4 of under 35-year-olds UK workers who actually seek opportunities to go elsewhere if they've actually developed their skills better. 36%, nearly 500,000, actually consider quitting their jobs because there's no opportunities for them to grow and develop. Over 2/3 of job seekers are using things like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter to gain insights into company culture, seeing what's going on. They no longer believe the hype. They're using things like Glassdoor, where they can actually find out what employees think. In other words, the pressure on leaders to actually deliver is getting higher. So when you actually talk to these employees, what do they want? Well, the research from Glassdoor says these are the key things that they're looking for. Think a bit about you and your organization. They want a positive workplace culture. They want opportunities for continuous learning, well-being programs and support, workplace flexibility, and I think that's been exacerbated with the COVID thing, people working from home when they want, how they want, and encouragement to do things. Now, again, you could actually argue these are very, very simple things, but the reality is it's not happening in lots of cases. In other words, what we need is a dramatically and demonstrably different approach. And that's where this whole idea of 3D leadership comes in. We've identified 8 characteristics. I'm going to take you through these and give you some examples of these. There are 8 things we see entrepreneurial leaders do. And therefore, what I'm suggesting here are 8 ideas for you to consider, 8 things for you to consider. Please do not do this. It's these things you have to do to be successful. There are lots of different ways. This is just stuff we've done based on our research over the last 30 years into successful entrepreneurial leaders. So see it as a framework. See it as a template to actually work out what this means for you and for your employees and for your business. So 3D leadership characteristic 1 is all about passion, purpose, and performance. What we see successful entrepreneurs do, they have a passion for what they're doing. Steve Bartlett, the founder of Social Chain, a social media marketing business based in Manchester, founded 6 years ago, now has 750 staff, 250 million turnover revenues generated. And the thing that he talks about is this thing about being passionate. That's where you're likely to succeed. In fact, I would add to that, I actually think that what we see successful leaders do is this. They work on the things that they're passionate about, things they enjoy doing, the things that they're good at, and the things that make an impact. What does that mean for you? And how do you actually demonstrate that in what you do? But first of all, focus on the things that you're passionate about and good at. Interestingly, Steve's actually now stepped down as chief exec to free himself up to do other things, having built and sold a successful business. And one of the things that we see 3 leaders do is that they get that vision thing. And getting that vision thing is creating a picture of the future that stimulates, excites, and inspires. And what this actually means is looking at where we want to be. And I think it's worth pointing out that first when we start talking about this vision thing, it's not a business plan. Martin Luther King didn't stand on Capitol Hill 70 odd years ago and say, I've got a strategic business plan and a cash flow forecast. He had a dream, got people to buy into that. It also shouldn't be a pie in the sky idea, although I do suggest that the best visions do stretch people, they push people. And I think it's also worth pointing out that it's not just what the MD stands up and talks about at the company conference where people don't really know what's going on, but they just nod and go, yeah, let's get on with the real work. And what we actually see that it's worth pointing out that it's not about predicting the future. We can't do that. What we can do is paint a picture of how we want things to be. And this thing about predicting the future is quite an interesting one because I actually work on the theory that if some of the best brains in the country can't do it, we've got no chance. This guy reckons he's an expert at seeing the future. He couldn't see the unforeseen circumstances. And you actually see in the real world, this actually happens. This was HMV's annual report 2002. Basically, the internet is not going to work. They weren't the only ones saying that back in the day. They made the mistake of maybe putting it into their annual report, and I'd also argue maybe taking a few years before they realised it would. In fact, when you start looking at this, you see through history, some very clever people have got these things badly wrong. Lord Kelvin, one of our greatest ever mathematicians, heavy-than-air flying machines are impossible. Western Union, transport business in the US, asked to invest in a telephone. They couldn't see the point. I think there's a world market of about 5 computers. Thomas Watson, chairman of IBM, he changed his mind. DEC, Ken Olsen, president of DEC in the late 70s, no reason for any individual to have a computer in their home. At the time, that was a valid thing to think. He wasn't the only one thinking of that. DEC, one of the biggest manufacturers of computers in the world, huge, big things that went in businesses, not homes. I assume he's talking about memory there rather than money. And you realise that these predictions keep on going. Here in the UK, maybe our Prime Minister doesn't always get things right. What I'm trying to suggest here is this is not about predicting the future. Your vision should be and is, first of all, a picture of the future that you want. And it's got to stimulate, excite, inspire you, and it's got to stimulate, excite, inspire other people. In other words, you've got to tap into the values, the ethos of the people working for you to help them get buy into this. It should be used for something to actually get able to work towards it. It's not just something that's done and left aside. It's used to drive the business, and it also gives you a point of strategic focus. This is what we use to drive and shape what we do. And what we see the best leaders do is they get everybody on board with this. They share it. They make it meaningful. And therefore, one of the things you might want to think a bit about is establish your vision. If we were sat here November 2021, what will be in place? What will it look like in terms of customers, pictures, names, finance? What does it all look like? Paint that picture. And then I'd also get you to start thinking about what this destination looks like. Don't worry about how you're going to get there yet. Set the destination and then share it. Get other people on board. What we see 3D leaders do is they share their vision. They get other people on board. And one of the things that you actually find is if people actually feel a purpose to what they're doing, that will actually help them drive what they're doing and actually make it valuable. So, some questions people ask us when they share this vision thing. These are the things we hear staff ask. They might not ask you directly. These are things they ask each other or through their head. They'll say things like, why are we doing this? Oh, crikey, they've been on a seminar. How is it relevant to me? What specifically do you want me to do? How will I be measured? What tools and support are available to help me make this work? What's in it for me? That's a very valid question. If you can't show them what's in it for them, they ain't going to do it. You can't motivate people, people can motivate themselves. You can create the environment for them to do it. And how are we doing? Do we keep it alive? So therefore, get this vision thing is about sharing the vision and getting it on board. And your other role as a leader is to actually help people answer those questions. A brilliant example of a 3D business is John's Crazy Socks. We were very lucky to visit them over in New York a couple of years ago. And they have a clear vision and a mission about finance, yes, but also about making a difference. What they also do, and it's run by John and Mark Cronin, built it in 2016, now a turnover of $7 million, selling socks online. But they have 4 core values about inspiration and hope. They want to make a difference. They give back. 5% of their profits are actually, of their earnings, are given to charities. They actually are passionate about their socks, they have a wide range, and they make it personal. They actually completely create a personalized experience. That leads us on to 3D characteristic 2, which is all about building these things into what you do and how you do it. And characteristic 2 is all about valuing your values. And it's this whole idea of using your core value to shape what you do. Values are often seen as being very soft and touchy-feely, but not by this guy, a guy called Tony Hsieh, who built Zappos. Zappos is the world's only $1 billion shoe shop online, built on 10 core values, which might sound all very touchy-feely. Sold to Amazon. One of the deals is Amazon had to go nowhere near them because they actually create a complete culture on anybody else to check and to challenge. So this whole idea of Zappos, and you get a chance to see what they do, it's fantastic. Again, very lucky to visit them a couple of years ago. Had a fantastic day with them. They toured around, and some of the things that I thought were amazing was that they turned their values into meaningful behaviors. So for example, this whole idea of delivering wow, they actually say the instruction is stay on the phone until you get it sorted. Lots of call centers I see and work with, it's get off the phone as quick as you can. They actually encourage their staff to stay on the phone as long as they can to actually deal with the customer. They reckon their record time is 10 hours, 51 minutes. And I'm not suggesting that should be happening all the time, but the whole idea here is actually turn these values into meaningful, and do people actually deliver them? Zappos have created a culture where they actually do this. Because what we see 3D leaders do is, first of all, they ensure the behaviors they actually want are spelt out. They ensure that they're meaningful, and they're also sure that they are lived. So this isn't just about putting posters up. It never fails to amaze me how many leaders say to me, oh, Andy, yeah, we've got some posters, our values, yes, it's about delighting customers. You see it's in the reception somewhere. And I'm yet to see a company that's got posters up saying, we don't care about our customers, we're going to rip them off. You say these lovely things, do you actually live them? Do you turn them into something that's meaningful? Julian Hearn, guy who set up Huel, which is a nutritional food business, exporting all over the world, incredibly successful. He's come up with some lovely words and phrases about what they want from people. You go into their offices, and what you'll see in their reception is this. Quite up front, not for everybody, but the whole idea here is this whole idea of spelling out how you want things to be. So 3D doing idea for you on this one is establish what you stand for, spell out your values, and then this is the key bit. Share them, turn them into something meaningful and actually use them. And a key big one for me is, do you demonstrate them in everything that you do? You're going to have a culture, you might as well shape and build the influence one you want. Key leadership characteristic 3. It's not something with a strange one. It's all about going for walks. 3D leaders think strategically. That means that they create time to think and work strategically in terms of how they're going to move their business and themselves forward in line with their vision. See if you can recognize this. I see this in lots and lots of businesses. There are 3 levels of thinking: strategic, operational, tactical. Tactical thinking is, how do I deal with this customer complaints that's coming, or this employee idea? Operational thinking is, how do I set up a system to this customer complaint, these employee ideas? Strategic thinking is, how do I stop these complaints happening in the first place? How do I create more of these ideas? We talk about working in the business, on the business. 3D leaders create time to consciously work on their business. Yes, they have to do the internal stuff, the day-to-day stuff. We've all got to do that. But it's creating some time to think and work strategically. The benefits of strategically allow you to see the bigger picture. They allow you to sort of see the wood for the trees. They allow you to spot problems, find ways of actually solving those problems. Because we've got our head down, we don't always see the way things are doing. So what we're encouraging people to do here is to take that step back and see if there is another way of doing things. It also helps accelerate growth. Research by a government agency looked at growing businesses. They actually found that businesses consciously worked on were typically on average 10 months ahead of those where they hadn't been. So this isn't just a nice thing to do, it makes commercial sense. Jeff Viner, founder and CEO of LinkedIn, yes, he's bound to do 3D thinking now. When he first started, he used to block out 2 hours, I think it was 90 minutes, 2 hours a week, even when there's only 3 of them in the business, to think about things. That's what this is all about, creating time to do it. And it's avoiding some of the things that we find we're often guilty about. We feel guilty about it. We want to be seen to be busy. Some things to consider: create the time. Don't just do it tomorrow, or you've got 2 days of this stuff. Block some time out, diary it, create the time to work on this. Give yourself or get permission. If possibly need to, just get away from the office and do it somewhere else. But have a go at it. A couple of hours, just reviewing all the things you've learned on these 2 days. That's strategic thinking. Work on it and then build it into what you do. Find a way of doing it. An amazing 3D leader, a guy called Simon Bilcliffe, who runs a business here in the UK called Webmart in Bicester and Barnsley, print distribution business. He creates what he calls his DIY MBA. He blocks out a day a week to think, to read, to explore things, to visit other businesses. Now it's his business, he can do that. If you can't do a day a week, could you do an hour a week, 2 hours a week? What could you do to get and start thinking strategically? And one of the things we start to think about is, are we working on the right things? So again, an action you might want to consider is go for a walk. And what I mean by that is block some time out, just go for a walk and think about your business, where it's going, how it's going to get there. Characteristic 4, challenge the status quo and disrupt. An amazing entrepreneur who's in the social industry. He's actually a charity called Charity Water. There's a guy called Scott Harrison. Put integrity into everything that you do. Charity Water is an amazingly disruptive charity. Some of the things that he actually does: 100% of your donation goes to a specific project. The work that they actually do as an organization is funded by large organizations and philanthropists. You link to a specific project, so the money you actually give goes to a specific town or village. They actually have videos where you can actually see the work you're doing. The Google Canvas, see what's actually going on. They've actually got proof of impact as a complete open book, total transparency, because he recognized a lot of people didn't have trust and faith in lots of charities. And if you want to see what they're doing, just go onto their website. It's an amazing business organization. In other words, this leadership stuff doesn't just happen in businesses, it can happen anywhere in society. What we see 3D leaders do is actually make a difference by disrupting. And one of the things when you start looking at this stuff is that 3D leaders innovate. And that's what innovation is about. It doesn't have to be lots of brand new products and services, the latest Apple iPhone. Our definition of innovation is the successful exploitation of new ideas. Have you actually found, again, due to Corona, that you've got to find new ways of doing things? And what we find is that sometimes, because we have adversity, it actually makes us actually find ways of doing things. But what we see 3D leaders do is they don't wait for that to happen. They create it happening themselves. And Daniel Elk, founder of Spotify, I'm not an inventor, I just want to make things better. And that's what 3D leaders do. They find ways to make things better. Again, here in the UK, over half UK employees are sitting on ideas. They think they would actually help improve the business, but not put them forward. Why? Because there's no support to do it. There's no environment to do it. And there are no systems and processes. I had one client of mine who told me that none of his people would come up with ideas. I said, what processes have you got? He said, Andy, my door is always open. That is not a process. A process is a very simple example. Andrew received from a business called Resolve, IT business here in Sheffield. He sits down with his team once a month and just asks them this question: what's holding you back? He gets them to discuss issues and ideas to actually work it forward. Some of the things I've seen, 10 for a 10 Tuesdays, as a client of mine, they give people a tenner, they come up with 10 ideas to improve the business. They get together, have some pizzas and use it to do that. Frontline fix, if client was given a bunch of people said, if you've got £150 to spend on a problem, what would you do? How would you solve it? They came up with these things. In other words, find things that are going wrong in your business and challenge them. Get people to think about these things. Find ways of doing it. Herb Keller, a real disruptive leader, founder of Southwest Airlines. These are like a cheap airline in the US, like Ryanair, but they smile. They actually encourage people to come up with ideas. They say to people, demonstrate your personality. When they do their announcements, they do them in the way that works for them. Here are some of the things that their announcers have been heard to say. Maybe 50 ways to leave your lover, only 4 ways out of this plane. In order to enhance the appearance of your flight crew, will be dimming the cabin lights. Your bags are available on Carousel X. If you don't find them, they're available in 2 to 3 weeks on eBay. Again, demonstrating a dramatic difference. Get your people to do it. Buy into this stuff. And I'd argue that any small business can do this. As Nita Waddick said, think you're too small to make a difference, try going to bed with a mosquito. How do we actually get our employees involved in this stuff? And this is this whole idea of engaging, empowering, and enabling them. Lots of people use the word empowerment, but what we actually see in the best organizations, they create an environment where people are allowed to do it. Hersh Schultz, the co-founder of Ritz-Carlton Hotels, they actually have come up with a set of rules that allow people to get on with this stuff. For example, at Ritz-Carlton, every member of staff is empowered to spend up to $2,000 to solve a customer's problem on the spot without talking to a manager. Great story of a guy called Chris Hearn, staying at Florida Keys West at Ritz-Carlton Hotel, and came home with his family from a week's holiday. He was told the tragic news by his 5-year-old son. He'd left his best mate, Joshy the giraffe, back at the hotel. If those of you who've got young kids know, he's not going to go to school in the morning, he's not going to bed. Chris told his son a bit of a white lie, told him that Joshy's having an extra day's holiday. Hopefully they're going to find a replacement for him. He was going to ring Ritz-Carlton the next day, put his son to bed. He didn't need to, got a call that evening. Excuse me, have you lost a giraffe? He went, yes. Thank goodness, he said, it's the laundry team here. We've found him. He's on the way. We'll put him in the post to you. He said, oh, that's brilliant. But if you could help me. And I told my son a bit of a white lie. Is there any way you could actually just take a picture of Joshy so I could show him on holiday? No problem, sir. 2 days later, Joshy arrived in a package with some Ritz-Carlton goodies, and in it was a beautifully bound photo album with a picture of Joshy sunbathing, having a massage, down to the beach, chilling with his mates. That's what this stuff is about. Getting people engaged, empowered to do it. In terms of what people actually want from this stuff, the research suggests that they actually want interesting work. It's back to doing stuff they enjoy. They want to be able to use your initiative, and they actually want stuff that complements the skills. What I said at the beginning, stuff you're good at, stuff you're passionate about, stuff that makes an impact, and stuff that actually allows you to actually enjoy it and make it work. So your role as a leader is to do that, but it's also about getting out of the way. What we see 3D leaders do is they create an environment, but what they also do is get out of the way. They're still there for people to support and help them, But one of the things you might start thinking about is, what are you doing to create an environment where people can thrive? John Timpson talks about upside down management. He gives his team 2 basic rules: look the part, put the money in the till. He says the role of the managers is to actually support people and get out of the way. And that's what this is about. Every member of staff at Timpson's retailers in the UK is actually empowered to spend up to £500 to solve a customer's problem, deal with a complaint without talking to a manager. So 3D idea here, some things to consider. Look at these questions. Ask your team, what do these things mean for them? And you can actually get the slides on the exhibition stand. I can download these so you can actually write them, but use these to create some conversations with your people. Characteristic 6 is about connecting and collaborating. Have a quick look at this. I'd love it if you can to join the 9 dots using 4 straight lines without taking your pen or pencil off the paper. Can you do it? Quick look at it. Here we go. It's a bit cheesy. It's about thinking out of the box. But what we see 3D leaders do, they don't think out of the box, they get out of the box. And they encourage others to do the same. This means what we call fishing in different ponds, finding other ways of doing things. Twinkle, an educational business online here, growing massively. It's all about relationships, says John Seaton. It's all about building relationships. But it's also about creating collaboration in terms of, what are the things you're not so good at? Can you find other people to do it? One of the things we said at the beginning is 3D leaders focus on things they're good at. Find people that can do the things you're not good at and develop relationships and partnerships with them. Sophie Maxwell is a social entrepreneur here in South Yorkshire, doing amazing stuff. Small business, hasn't got lots of money, lots of budgets, has developed some amazing relationships with One Young World, with Teach First, with some amazing organisations. Sophie says, don't be afraid to ask for what you haven't got. So again, idea here, go fishing in different ponds. What haven't you got? Who will help you achieve your vision? And actually connect and contact them. Characteristic 7 is use your intelligence. This is this whole idea of using information to maximize performance. If you want to learn to let go, you make sure you have the systems in place that tell you everything is fine. It's about keeping your finger on the pulse, using this thing to actually spot the bigger picture, utilize and maximize information. What we see in lots of businesses, and see if you recognize this in your business, in your department, information is collected, it's analyzed, communicated, and it's maximized. Or that's the theory. The reality is it gets collected, nobody's doing anything with it. Or even worse, analysed, time and effort put into analysing it, nothing happens to it. Or it gets communicated in a way that nobody can understand. It's deadly accurate, but it's very, very old or out of date, but it doesn't get maximised. Think about this. What information do you need to maximise the performance of your business? What are the key factors for success? Who and how should it be communicated to you in terms of frequency and format? Who and how should it be analysed? Who and who should actually collect it? Work on this to actually create a set of key drivers for you and for your business. A little analogy we use when we work with our clients is, if you're sat on a desert island, you only ring up your business once every week or once every day even, what would you want to know? Work out what those things are. That will actually help you shape up what your key drivers might be. But then the key thing here is also then to make sure that you share it. Do you actually share this stuff in a way that actually works for your employees? Is providing meaningful insight into this. What information do your people need to actually help them buy into what you're doing, to let them know that they're doing a great job, to actually keep doing a great job? So one of the things we also see 3D leaders do is they share the information with their people in a meaningful way. That might mean pictures, that might mean graphs. It's not lots and lots of spreadsheets and P&Ls. It's about making people understand what this means for them. So again, one of the things you might think about is what this looks like. Back to the guys at Webmark, they have a thing called Where Dreams Come True. It's a board with people's names on it. If you have been there for 6 months, you're asked, if you had £1,000 to spend, what would you blow it on? If they hit all their targets in terms of sales, turnover, profit, customer service, quality, delivery performance, they spin the wheel. Whoever it lands on gets the money to spend on whatever they want. That's about keeping this stuff alive. So some things to think about here. What are your key factors of success? How are you going to measure them? How are you going to share them? And the last characteristic is all about learning and getting better. The very nature of you being on this event suggests that you are a thinker in terms of getting better. But one of the things we see 3D leaders do is that they consciously and proactively get better in terms of the business, but also themselves. Any idea what Bill and Melinda Gates, Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey, Mark Cuban, Sarah Blakely, Jack Ma, Elon Musk have got in common? They're part of what is known and take part in what they call the 5-hour rule. The 5-hour rule is where they spend a day a week, an hour a day or 5 hours a week learning about reading, developing things. It doesn't have to be reading, you might want to listen to something, you might want to watch on YouTube, but it's about creating time to consciously work on yourself. It's also about having feedback loops. It's very lonely running a business, getting other people to actually give you advice, to question, challenge you. And a very simple little exercise you might want to consider is to remove your blind spots. Just have a quick look at this, please. How many F's on that page? How many can you see? 2, 3, 4? Can you see 5? There are, in fact, 6. It's the F's people often miss. And what I'm suggesting here is sometimes things that are obvious to us aren't obvious to other people and vice versa. Sorry about that one. So one of the things we encourage you to do is give people a damn good listening to. Little exercise we encourage you to consider called Stop, Start, Continue. Get your team, get your co-directors, get your colleagues to tell you what they think you as a leader should stop doing, should start doing and continue doing. Just a word of warning how you do this. I had one client of mine who did this, got some feedback from one of his staff members who said, stop breathing. But seriously, find ways to get feedback and actually work on what you need to do to become a better leader. So in summary, 3D leadership is not just a set of rules, it's a philosophy, it's a process. Passion, purpose and performance. Value your values, go for walks, challenge the status quo and disrupt, engage, empower, enable, connect and collaborate, use your intelligence, learn and get better. And therefore, one of the things you might want to think about is how do you measure up? Again, if you go to our exhibition stand, there's a little tool you can download, as well as the slides and toolkits. One is to actually like to assess yourself against these things. Talk to your colleagues, how do they think you measure up? Then develop your own plan. What are you going to do to make this work for you? And the last idea I want to share with you is this. Take action, not just notes. Of all the things you're going to hear from me and all the other people during the next 2 days, work out what you're going to do. 3D leaders take action, they don't just take notes. Vision without action is hallucination. Take that first step. Do stop, start, continue. Have I got the assessment? It'll prompt you to start doing other things. But just take that first step and do things that are a bit scary. You maybe have done this before, but put yourself out there, out of your comfort zone to make things happen. And I can get all these quotes from all these wonderful world leaders, but the important one is this. Don't just stand there, do something. Have a go and try things. Work out what you're going to do. If you want to get in touch with me to do that, or let me know what you're going to, I'd love to hear from you. You might have heard this before. If you always do what you've always done, people say, always get what you've always got. I don't think you do. In this dramatically and demonstrably different world now, if you always do what you've always done, you'll get left behind. So have a go at these things, take action, anything I can do to help you, please feel free to get in touch. And all we'll say is, be a 3D leader. We'll see you at the exhibition stand. Take care now. Bye.